Okay, beneficiaries. There are basically two types of beneficiaries in the super world. There's the CIS dependent and tax dependent. The CIS dependent, it's named after the Superannuation Industry Supervision Act, so the legislation. That's basically anyone who can get money from someone's super fund. So you have to be a CIS dependent. So you could be a child of any age, you could be a spouse, you could be financially dependent on the deceased, or in a person with an independency relationship with the deceased.
Interesting in that is adopted children as well as stepchildren.
Yeah, well, they're kids and family unit and all that, but that just comes down to your estate planning broadly. Now, the tax dependent, this is who can get money from super tax-free. So a spouse or former spouse, yep, they're ticked as a CIS dependent. Yep, okay, now you can receive, Amy can receive your money from super tax-free, all good. Children under 18, so if you're under 18, you can get mum or daddy's super tax-free. Now, you can see a child is a CIS dependent, but if you're an adult child, you're not a tax dependent, so you will pay tax on monies that comes from, and I'll use an example, John, you're my daddy, you've got $100,000 in your super, I'm your only child, I'm an adult, you died, I tick the box of a CIS dependent because I'm a child of yours. I don't tick the box of a tax dependent because I'm over 18. So that means I will have to pay some tax. Now, this is where it can get complicated really fast. Remember earlier I talked about the taxable component, the tax-free, or the tax and the tax-free.
Yeah.
If I had a super balance of $100,000 and $50,000 was tax-free and $50,000 was taxable, if you did in your super account, when you died, the tax-free amount, I would get paid to me without any tax.
Because tax has already been paid?
Because it was put in by you with post-tax money, but the other $50,000 or the portion that's taxable, so on that $50,000 that's taxable, gets left to me, your adult child, I would pay 15% tax plus the Medicare levy, 2%, so 17% tax. There's a weird...
Maximum.
Yeah.
So
and this
nothing to do with your taxable income for that year?
No.
Straight 17.
However, there is a weird thing, and this is why advice and tax planning and estate planning is important. You can also put a beneficiary to your super fund as your personal legal representative or the estate. So remember, super doesn't fit inside your will, but you can tell your super fund to pay that money direct to your will. So there's no discretion by the fund, they just pay it into your estate. If you paid that money into the will and then I got that portion from your super, I don't pay the Medicare levy.
So I save 2%. So you're still going to pay the 15 regardless.
Of the taxable amount if you're an adult child.
Yeah.
So again, this stuff can get messy fast. Let's have a look now at insurance. So we won't camp here too long, but basically you rock up to your super fund and they'll have some default insurance that, you know, the big super fund's gone to an insurance company and saying, we want to provide a death benefit for our members. So they'll negotiate a group rate, it's called group insurance, and that will be just tacked in. So if this was the ART super fund or your Aware or CBUS or whatever it is, you got your $63,000 on that account. You might have death, TPD, income protection or salary continuance. There you go. The problems are it's tied to that exact fund. So each 3 years, if the super fund are re-tendered, the prices might go up, they might go down, the benefits definitions might become worse, they might cover you for less, all that stuff. It's usually more expensive in this climate than going to a financial advisor. The definitions, I've talked about, they're not as strong as getting your own insurance tailored to you. But the big thing here is there is one beneficiary tied to the death cover and the super account. So on this slide here, if you had your $63,000 in super and you had the beneficiary to Amy, she would get this and your death cover. Right. Now, if you had a child from another marriage who was under 18, you might want to choose that they get your death cover and Amy gets your super balance. So it's just a little bit more flexibility, not having your superannuation tied to your insurance.
So what you're saying is inside your superannuation, the insurances are more expensive and less relative to you and your situation.
Yeah, so Sky Wealth has done a heap of data on this, and we had Phil on the show a while ago. We had actual examples that increasing cover through the group policy was more expensive than going through an advisor.
Wow.
Like, it's wild.
Because a lot of Australians would naively just say, oh, I've got insurances in my super, I'm fine.
Yep. If you get a retail policy through a financial advisor, you can see here there's different dots. We'll say that that's CBUS Super. We just tell this policy to take the money from CBUS each year. I want to move from CBUS to Australian Super. Yeah, I've done that. Then I just tell this policy to get the money from Australian Super, not my CBUS. So it's just more flexibility.
Yeah.
You can get some good packaging. So if you've got your income protection, you might have a portion paid in super, portion paid outside. If you've got trauma cover, it can be cheaper linking it to death cover that's actually paid for the super fund. So a lot more flexibility. And like I said before, you can set a different beneficiary to the life insurance to the actual super balance.
No brainer, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yes, a financial advisor, when they set up your insurances, receive an insurance commission from the insurance company for doing that. But guess what? It's still cheaper than doing a like-for-like with your group policy on balance. So, yeah, it's just really important to note. What else have we got here? So, some FAQs. Can you join super funds with a spouse? No, you can't. Unless you have a self-managed super fund. There could be some things where I'm pretty sure, like you and Amy with net wealth, I think a lot of these wrap accounts, and we'll put a link in the show notes and on the YouTube description to the episode I did with Vince about wrap accounts. You've got separate member accounts, but they would look at both of your balances and use both balances for the fee aggregate. So you kind of can have a bit of a win in terms of fees. Is super actually safe? Well, I believe it is, but this comes back to who's the trustee? Have they got a track record? We've heard some real sad stories of people losing, all their super funds from investing in various schemes and whatnot. It all comes back to a diversification play. We just don't want all our super in the one basket. So super is safe because it's just a tax structure. But what are you investing within that tax structure?
Like any investing, it goes up and down, and there are sometimes crashes. And if you need that money at that certain time, you are vulnerable. That's with any investing, isn't it?
Well, that's why we did the Retire Right podcast for people coming up to 10 years out of retirement. That's when you really need to start looking strategically.
Yeah.
Because remember, if you're 60 years old and stop working, your money still needs to go to work for another 25 years.
Yeah.
So, one of the questions is, what investment option should you choose? Well, one that is actually suitable to your goals and time frame.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. If you're under age 50, I don't know if there's a reason not to have 80 to 90% growth.
Nah, but the thing that I always revert back to is, well, sometimes I can't see a difference between balanced and growth. So,
but that's where you need to look under the hood You need to look at the asset allocation individually, the percentage asset allocation to growth, the standard risk measure, which tells you over the next 20 years, this will have 4 to 6 years of negative returns.
Yeah.
Forget the name.
Yes.
Asset allocation, standard risk measure, suggested minimum hold time. They are the 3 things that actually determine what you're invested in. It could be called the John Pidgeon BS fund.
Yeah.
That's cute. Doesn't mean anything. What are you invested in? What's the asset allocation?
Yeah.
And what's the standard risk measure and minimum hold time?
So continue to ask questions.
Yeah. How much do you need to retire? You need as much as possible. We will do another episode, I think next fortnight. We're going to do a campfire chat with Vince and Jess Brady from the Financially Fierce podcast, and we'll get into the weeds of everyone's other questions that they put up in the Facebook group. If you want to join the Facebook group and you're not in there, where it says, where did you hear about us? I heard John and Glen talk about Super episode 836 or whatever this one's called, so we know you're not spam. With the rules changing all the time, should I trust Super? Well, I'm saying yes. What are you saying?
I'm saying yes as well. But like anything, there's things that we can't control. Does that mean we just throw the toys out and just go and do something else? Well, what is that something else? As we said at the start, there's no better tax haven in Australia from an investment point of view than for your retirement than Super. So, yes, you got to roll with the punches of rules changing and everything else. But, yeah, I don't know if it's a trust thing. It's more of a well, I suppose it is trust with government and everything else. But
yeah, but I'm not a tinfoil hat guy.
No, and it's looking at the asset class probably more so, saying like the tax benefits combined with the asset class, am I on the right track? More so than, I can only put up to 300 grand in Super or whatever, and then it blows me up.
Yeah, and that's it. It's just a structure. Sure, there's potentially legislative risk. So 10 years ago, you pumped Super or you put $1 million in when they let you and all that, and now you've got your $10 million in Super and they're changing the rules. So over $3 million, you're going to get taxed more. Well, it sucks, but also
it's a fair chunk.
Yeah, but if you've got $3 million in Super, I think you'd be okay.
And where it comes back to diversification as well. Did you actually have too much in there? Is there a thing? I don't know. Well, there is now.
Yeah.
Because you're impacted if you have too much in there now.
Yeah. And I will say, back to the contributions and the 15% tax that goes in on the contributions tax, if you earn over $250,000 a year, it's 30%.
Yeah.
Which is still less than
it's company tax, right?
50% in your own name. So on the contributions tax, maximum 30%. I think we can trust it. I just don't see any because it's always going to be more tax advantageous than outside.
Yeah, and I'm probably guilty of this as well in terms of not so much trust, but just not being involved in it on even a year-to-year basis. I trust someone else outside of my family to say, you do what you think's best. And I think a lot of Australians are in that same boat potentially where they say, well, maybe I need to take more involvement. Maybe
do you know what your asset allocation is?
Not really.
Yeah. See, that's potentially a problem. You need to go back to your advisor and be like, hey, you probably have told me this, but
you
what's the percentage of growth?
Yeah. But I'm a little bit of an outlier in the sense that I've been running a business, started a few different businesses, so the contributions over those periods weren't great. So my superannuation is not – I'm not totally reliant on that like a lot of Australians.
And if I don't have a beneficiary, well, the trustee will – gather information and data, and they'll make the call who to pay it to. That was the other FAQ. But look, we haven't covered a heap of stuff in here. We've talked a lot recently on the podcast about spouse splitting, so I don't want to rehash it. Low-income earner, put $500 of your own money in, the government will match it to $500. Anything else, John, that we may have missed that you want to make comment on?
Oh, look, the attractive thing for property buyers is the first home super saver scheme. So that's relevant if you're at that time in your life.
Yeah, and Vince and I did a full deep dive of that scheme. But I just wanted to do a bit of an overview. Did you learn anything today or?
Yeah, a couple of little things that reinforced. I mean, it's...
or did something stand out to you that...
Well, something that stood out was I need to get back into understanding where my allocation is and what's actually happening there. And obviously, it is explained at tax time to say this is what we probably need to be doing. But... yeah, it's definitely something that when I speak to a lot of people about, okay, what's their superannuation balance, do they know their allocation, very little of them know. And the listeners of the show here are probably, they're the converted, they probably already know this stuff. But reaching out to others to say, yeah, maybe you should check in on this yourself.
Yeah. So everyone, cold shower, you don't have to start a self-managed super fund and set up ETFs in there, and we'll talk about that next episode. But yeah, super is just a tax structure. Log into your fund, see what you're invested in. I don't think you need to have 50% in a conservative portfolio and 50% in a high growth. Just get a growth portfolio. Don't overcook it and keep it really simple. But I just want to drum home that it's all got to do with the asset allocation and your time horizon. That's everything with investing. So
play the long game, let it do its thing.
That's right. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. John Pidgeon from the This Is Property podcast, and you've got a YouTube with your episodes on YouTube now, so you can check that out. Thanks, everyone. See you soon. Bye. Hey, it's Glen here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.